and welcome to Zero Cool Gaming and today's movie review. Today we're going to be reviewing the 1982 movie Blade Runner. Now, this is an interesting show. At the time, a lot of people agreed with that. But reading the reviews today, you would find that understanding hard pressed. There are a couple of reviews that were positive of it, on like the second and third page of the search, but nothing on the first page. First page is nothing but either very well written, very analytical view as to why you should dislike this show, or they are just looking at it at an analytical view and the what went into it, and then comparing that to what they do today. Neither of which are really good reviews. So, yeah. What is Blade Runner to me? Well, it's a movie that made me, start to think about programming and how programming could get to the point that it's essentially a living being, because it thinks for itself, it understands itself, it has emotions, it has thoughts, it collects information. I mean, regardless of what it is made of, regardless of how it was created in that respect, it's a being at that point. And that's also another reason why I think we should have regulations on how smart we can make AI. And this movie goes into reasons why that should be a thing, and why we shouldn't be trying to create programs that emulate us to the finest detail. Now, you're probably wondering what I mean by that. Well, we'll just look at what Blade Runner is to begin with, what the show is, kind of, how it plays out and what goes on. So, this is the future. Mankind can build basically anything with a mix of biological engineering and technological engineering. And they can create essentially living robots that can do manual labor in extreme conditions. What exactly all that means, I don't know. The movie doesn't truly go into all of that. But in the process of doing so, these machines don't last long. Even though they look like people, they act like people, they think like people, they're still just a machine, and a machine wears out, and eventually it breaks down and it stops functioning. Well, before that happens, they normally simply turn these machines off. And every once in a while, they would have, one of these machines decide that it didn't want to get turned off and would run away. And that's why they have a specific police force designed to hunt down these runaways and retire them in a more violent fashion. The story of Blade Runner starts with a retired officer who used to do that type of work, who's asked to hunt down a few more that have run away. And he takes the job, and he does a good job at it. I mean, he hunts them down, he finds them, and he eliminates them, exactly what he was supposed to do, what he had done for years. I mean, that's just the way the law is. And of course, there's several reasons for that. The movie itself doesn't go into all those, but there's certainly lots of rabbit holes you could jump down there. And at the end of the show, kind of the twist to it is that he actually falls in love with one of these machines and runs away with it. For all you romantics out there, I'm sure they lived happily ever after. For the realists out there who understand the world that we just watched a 2 hour movie on, they hired someone to retire that machinery in a more violent fashion, and he was most likely arrested, at the very least fined, and possibly spent a few years in jail for theft of company property. So, realistically, in the world that they were living in, that's what would have happened. But anyway, regardless, that's not the rabbit hole that I'm going to go down. The rabbit hole I'm going to go down is the one about machinery and programming. And what I mean by that, and why I believe that, we should truly have restrictions on that. Let's just look at today's technology. I mean, we have, what is that called? Dynamics. Something Dynamics. Anyway, they build robots. I'm horrible with names. And we can build some pretty decent robots. But those robots need constant repair, constant upkeep to keep functional. We can build computers. We can build really smart computers with lots of processors. And those computers need upkeep, and they need to be upgraded, and things changed out, and this sort of stuff. Okay, currently none of that's really a problem because the programming running that doesn't care if you do any of it. And I use the word care specifically. As programming gets more advanced, if we don't restrict how intelligent we make it, eventually you're going to start having machines that are going to care about the upgrades that are occurring to them. And they're going to possibly even fear certain upgrades as a result. And let me explain what I mean by that. Let's say you have a thinking computer in your house, right? Okay, it's running, it's functional, blah, blah, blah. It talks to you, you have conversations, it gathers information, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff is happening. But it's still just a desktop computer. Let's say that's what it looks like. But it's a thinking desktop computer. And let's say the processor has a problem with it, and you want to upgrade the processor. Well, to a thinking machine, and with programming that advanced, putting a more advanced processor into it would change its personality. Possibly forever changing it to where it doesn't even know of its previous personality or who it was. That could be absolutely terrifying to a machine, to consider something like that happening to it. And even replacing it with an exact replacement of processor. Today we have what they call the silicon lottery, which basically means that not all chips, like processor chips or graphics card, GPU chips, not all of them are created equal in that respect. Some of them have less defects than others, so they function better. So let's say the one that you originally had in there was one with very minimal defects and it ran really well. And the replacement that you get is a lower grade on the silicon lottery scale, so it's not going to process information as well. So just in doing that, you have forever altered in that respect how that machine will process information, which means it will now slowly, if not drastically, start to change its personality as a result. When you really start to dive down this rabbit hole, you can see the problems that arise with creating intelligent programs. And not just, smart in certain aspects, but intelligent overall, that can think for themselves and learn for themselves and start to create personalities. So yeah, this was a movie that got me to start thinking about those sorts of things and where all that might go one day. And yeah, in my opinion, the easiest way to prevent a Blade Runner style problem would just be to regulate programs so that they never get that smart in the first place. Anyway, that's my rant for the day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of yours.